I've been with Father Bates all morning, and I have a good report. Father Bates has made me feel like part of the family. He has. Father Bates and I spoke a couple of weeks ago because I think Dr. Matthew Stanford, who's the CEO, was supposed to come and speak, but he's a really busy man. He had some things to do, and then I think the Chief Operating Officer, Don Ballard, was supposed to speak, and he's preaching at some church in the Woodlands. So, they asked me to stand in, and I'm so grateful for that opportunity. God is still God. He's still sitting on the throne, and I am so thankful that He is, because in these turbulent times that we're living in, if it were not for God, where would we be? We all need the experience, the strength, and the hope of other believers like this fellowship and all you good people who are gathered here today. So once again, Father Bates, I am so very thankful that you allowed me to come and be a part of this. Father Bates tried to get me to eat something, but I told him, I said, well, Father Bates, he said, well, you were supposed to come and eat something. I said, well, Father Bates, I got a friend. His wife is cooking. She always cooks these big Sunday dinners. And if I go there, as big as I am, and I don't eat a lot of food, she's going to be kind of upset because she cooks a lot of cornbread and greens and stuff for me, because where I'm from, that's a staple. I am working at the Hope and Healing Center and Institute. I've been there. This month October will make two years. I worked there for about a year and a half as a telephone support operator, and now I'm working as a mental health coach. And I had the opportunity, and I guess you could say the misfortune, of working the phone lines during the height of the COVID. And we serve the Houston area, but since the internet, and the advent of the internet, everything is the Houston area. We get phone calls from Washington State, from California, from Chicago, and I had to sit there and listen to some of the saddest conversations that you can ever imagine listening to. People are traumatized. People were really afraid then, and I had to listen to it. And as sometimes the only thing I could tell them was, I'm afraid too. I've never seen this before, and I let them know that when you call me, you're not calling to another planet. I live in the same world that you live in, so it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to have some fears. It's okay to cry. Sometimes I would get on the phone and just listen to people cry for 20 minutes, 45 minutes, and whenever you start to try to have a conversation with them again, and they just start crying, and it's all right. It's okay. That's what we are there for. As Father Bates stated, the Hope and Healing Center and Institute is located on the campus of St. Martin's Church. St. Martin's is a very beautiful place, very beautiful people, just like the people that I have had a chance to deal with here. I wish Mrs. Flores was here. She was so helpful. So you please let her know that I did come by. I even missed her when I came by to drop the pamphlets off because she had a dentist appointment. So you just let her know that I appreciate her, and she made this transition, she made this process so smooth, just like everybody has since I've been here. Out in the entrance, we have some pamphlets, and this is Dr. Stanford on the cover. If you know somebody who's having a difficult time dealing with any type of, not mental illness, just any type of mental health problems. We all have mental health, just like we have physical health. We have the healthy side of our mental health, and it can get to the point where it renders us just completely unable to deal with life circumstances. So if you will, on your way out, please take one of these. If not for you, just for somebody who you may know, who may potentially, who's experienced a loss of a death, or the leaving of somebody leaving home, and just give them this, because we're there for the community. This is what we do. I've dedicated my life to helping people especially who are vulnerable and oppressed, and people living in poverty. I'm educated in social work. I was a nurse for 3.5 years, and I just didn't like it because I know I wasn't being the person, or I wasn't living the purpose that God created me to be. He created me to work with people. He created me to be able to listen, and to listen differently than most people do. I'm 6'4", 250, depending on, after this meal, I'll be about 260 today. But depending on what day and time you catch me, I'm 6'4", about 260 pounds. And all I've ever wanted to do was work with people and help people. And that's what I did. That's what I've been doing for the better part of my adult life. As I told the fellowship earlier and told Father Bates, I played football. I played high school football, was pretty decent at it, played college football, really got good at it, and then the NFL came calling. So I've had that experience of going through what those guys go through on Sundays. I know what that's like. I know what they're going through right now, wherever they are. But the TV can make them seem like superheroes, and they are not. They're just human beings, just like you and I. They have problems, especially when they start to get older like me. You hear this thing about the traumatic brain injuries and all of that. I got a really good friend who played 9 years in the NFL. He's 56 years old. He has Parkinson's disease right now, and he's in the first stage of dementia right now. I know another guy, I won't call the names, I know another guy who I played with the New Orleans Saints. And I saw him on the internet, and he couldn't even say his ABCs, and I cried. It makes me emotional now, but I cried. So it was a blessing to me to be able to go to the NFL. And then I worked my butt off, and I got there, and I hurt my knee, had surgery like 2 weeks in the training camp, come out of training camp, come out of that injury. First day back, after 5 weeks of rehab, I tore my rotator cuff up. It's still tore up. But there's a bright side. And the Bible says that for those who God loves and who love him, there's always a purpose. He knows what he's doing in his sovereignty. And I was known for being a physical player. The Lord allowed me to live out a dream. He answered the prayer, but he protected me. Because if it had not been for the Lord on my side, I might be dealing with dementia from playing football, a game I love. I might be dealing with Alzheimer's, and it's connected to football. So the Lord has allowed me to get this age, and now I'm doing what I love, and that's working with people. I love it. I was born to do it. Just like I was born to play football, I was born to do what I do, and I love every minute of it. I love being a Christian. I love the fact that God knows me by name. He keeps me in spite of all of the difficult things. I told Father Bates and the congregants earlier, started back working at the Hope and Healing Center and Institute a couple of months ago after I left. Gone for 2 months, Dr. Stanford called me and said, I gotta have you back. I said, Dr. Stanford, I told you, the part-time, the money's good, but he said, well, whatever you want, I'll give it to you. He said, whatever you want, I'll give it to you. And he did. When God has a call on your life, you can try to run from it if you want to. He'll call you back. He'll make it sweet for you. And I'm so grateful that I did go back, because if I hadn't gone back, I wouldn't be here today. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet Father Bates. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to speak with Mrs. Flores. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to meet some of the wonderful people who was in the service this morning, and they went out, they saw me, and they stopped me, and we talked about things. So it's all right to question God, but he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. The pandemic didn't catch him by surprise. He knows what he's doing in that as well. His word has got to come to fruition. He's going to be faithful to his word, whether we believe in it, whether we accept it or not. I lost a brother a couple of months ago to the pandemic. And the week before that, I lost my little nephew, 17 years old, hanging out with his little buddies all day, 15-year-old and 2 17 years old. Killed him with a gun they had stolen. But in the midst of all of that, God said, I'll never leave you. I'll never forsake you. He promised that, and he has not left me. He's not forsaken me. Recovery is something I know about. I have lived experiences. Just like I told you that NFL thing, when you hear those stories about those guys getting into troubles, you say, well, he's making all this money, why would he choose to do that? He was doing that before he got the money. Once they got the money, you can do more of that thing that causes you to go astray. But lo and behold, he kept me through it all, got my degrees, and just living life on life's terms and just thanking God that I am here. My name is Vincent Fizer, first of all. Father Bates introduced me. I'm Vincent Fizer, and I work at the Hope and Healing Center and Institute as a mental health coach. Now I work as a mental health coach, and as I stated earlier, my degrees are in social work and in nursing. As big as I am, the Lord chose to make a nurse out of me. Really, a social worker out of me? He has to have a sense of humor. The Hope and Healing Center and Institute is located right here in Houston, Texas, and is located at 717 Sage Road, and we're on the beautiful campus of St. Martin's Episcopal Church. Father Bates allowed me to come here to this very warm, inviting, and beautiful campus. Father Bates brought me in here, and I was like, oh my God, this is beautiful, Father Bates. I'm a Baptist. I'm a Southern Baptist at that. So, ours is a little bit more colorful, but this is absolutely beautiful. And I know that the Spirit of God is in here. The Spirit of God is in here. He's in this place. And so, Father Bates, you're right where you're supposed to be as well, sir. Our paths crossed at the exact time that God intended them to. And the gentleman sitting next to you who said he was 65 years old, he just celebrated his birthday. He came up and after the first service, he talked to me, and I told him, I said, you say you're 65 years old. If you stop doing what you did for that first 65 years, God gonna get you, because I know he got 65 more good years in you, sir. So you continue to do what you're doing. This is Recovery Sunday here. I'm so grateful that I'm here to celebrate and recognize Recovery Sunday with you all. Recovery in mental health and in addiction in particular, it's about not healing completely. You can't heal completely, because once you go down that path of addiction, you will always be an addict. Once you go down that path of unstable mental health, and I'm talking about the psychotic part of it, even with medication and therapy, you're not going to get back to where you used to be. You can manage, just like you can manage addiction, you can manage that psychosis. It can be managed. Dr. Stanford believes in that, and I believe in it as well. As a nurse and as a social worker, I've seen it. I've seen people manage those things. But it's hard. It's tough. I've seen it in other people, and I tell you from firsthand experience, it's hard to do, because it's a day-by-day thing. It's a temptation-by-temptation thing. But with the help of God, as the Bible says, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. If you lean and depend on him, it can happen. The Hope and Healing Center and Institute is an expression of St. Martin's Episcopal Church's vision to minister to all of those people who are broken by life circumstances and who are trying to manage that instability, trying to manage those mental illnesses, trying to manage those substance abuse issues. We are that arm as a community service worker. That's what we do. We'll let you know we can't heal you, can't solve all of your life's problems, but we'll walk with you. We'll be with you through it all. And just let them, you have to be real about this. There are some difficult days when you see somebody who's in recovery. There are some difficult days. Behind those smiles, sometimes there's a lot of pain. There's a lot of anguish behind those smiles. So if you know somebody who's going through addiction or somebody who's struggling with a mental illness, pray for them. That's about all you can do. You pray for them, you support them, you relate to them. Try to restore them back to the community, let them know that it's okay, because that's pretty much all that we do. We have clinicians there. We have clinicians on that campus. Everything that we do at St. Martin's Episcopal Church is free. They're not going to charge you one dime. We have clinicians there on campus. They're not going to ask you for your insurance. It's free to the consumers. Now, there are people who pay us to do what we do, but to the people who need the help, they don't get charged. Because why should somebody have to pay for, well, the medical center, they make a lot of money off of doing that thing, but we're not the medical center. If you get that bad, we'll refer you to the medical center, but we have clinicians there to do assessments, to help you through the process. Dr. Stanford does seminars, and he doesn't charge these people. He goes out, he's all over the United States doing seminars on mental health, on addiction, on community involvement, especially in faith-based communities. His thing is primarily for faith-based communities, but now a lot of the schools have gotten involved because they're seeing so many children who are dealing with trauma. The second leading cause of death in this country for children between the ages of 10 and 14 years old is suicide. The average length of time between those signs and symptoms showing up in this child that's something probably wrong, the average length of time between those signs and symptoms showing up and that child getting treatment is 11 years. If your child threw up and you did something to try to help that child so that their stomach gets right, if that child threw up in the morning and that child is still throwing up at nighttime, you're going to see that, you're going to the emergency room or urgent care center or something. If you have to wait till the next day, you're going to take that child to see its primary care pediatrician or primary care doctor. But when a child is having mental health issues, the average length of time between the sign and symptoms showing up and that child getting some treatment is 11 years. And I said the second leading cause of death in this country for children between the ages of the second leading cause is suicide, and that's for children 10 to 14. That child dealt with that for 10 years. By the time that child gets 11 years old, they don't see a way out. And so they figure, you know what, I'll just take my own life. These are not statistics that I make up. These are not statistics that Dr. Stanford makes up. He has dedicated his life to mental health, and it's sad. And he is a far more knowledgeable, more articulate man when it comes to getting the message across with mental health and the crisis that we're going through in America. So these are things that he talked to us about. It's sad, but it's true. We have free trainings online. If you get one of these pamphlets, this is for our fall program guide. In the back of it, it'll tell you about the website for the Hope and Healing Center. And then we have this thing called the Gateway to Hope, where anybody can go online and they can get these free trainings. You can become certified as a mental health coach. You can get all of these certifications to be a first aid responder. Please, if you don't have time and you know somebody in your family who just needs something constructive to do and they want to do more, take this to them. If you have time, you become involved. We'd love to have you. We'd love to have you there. We'd love to have you working, helping us in the community to try to help people get to optimal mental health again, to not become all the way well, but just to recover. And as I stated, it's free. Let people know that it's not going to cost them a dime. It's going to cost them time. It's going to cost them some of your time, but it's free and it's well worth it. Then we have, besides the clinical service we offer right there on the campus, We have these webinars. We have these trainings that Dr. Stanford does. We also have this thing called, that I've worked on, we call it the Hope Line. It's the Hope Line. We're open 7 days a week, 365 days out of the year. And that's all holidays. And that's when we see an uptick in the numbers of calls, especially before Thanksgiving and all the way through the new year. We get a lot of calls, but it's free. And the hours are between 5 o'clock p.m. until 8 o'clock p.m. Anybody can call. We don't want to know your name. We let you know that you don't have to tell me your name, but I need something I can call you by. Some people, once they call a couple of times, they'll tell you, tell their name. We're not going to judge you. We're not going to tell you what to do. We're not going to take control of your situation. We're not going to try to solve your problem for you. But what we're going to do is let you know that we're here. It's okay. Call me back the next day if you need to. Follow up with me. I want to know how you're doing. We're trying to get those hours extended between 9 o'clock a.m. and 9 o'clock p.m. It's going to happen either in December or at the beginning of the year. We have a budget meeting coming up this Friday, and Dr. Stanford is going to let us know more about that. So out of all of those things we offer, we have a hope line. It's not a crisis line. It's not a hotline. If you're in a crisis or you're thinking about suicide, really hurting yourself, we're going to refer you to somebody else, because that's what we're responsible for doing. We know our limitations, and we try to call it within the line. So if you know somebody who needs our services regarding mental health, not somebody who you say, well, you don't know what's going on in their hearts. A lot of times that thing that's going on in your heart, it's hard to tell. You have to be able to listen differently, not to what they say, but how they say it, why they say it. And all of this comes through training. So if you know somebody who's having some problems, who's going through some things, or if you need some things, or if you're going through some things yourself, it's an anonymous line. Give us a call. Please give us a call. If you know somebody out there who's struggling with addiction, we're a good place to start. We're an excellent place to start, because recovery is very rarely successful when you try to do it by yourself. It takes a team approach, and that's what we're there for, and that's what we love to do. Just like Father Bates loves being a man of God, I love doing what I do for a living. I do. I'm going to leave you with something. I'm going to leave you with something regarding recovery. This month is, like I said, September is recognized by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Association of America as a recovery month. This Sunday here, the 19th, at this church is recognized as Recovery Sunday. So as I told you earlier, Father Bates, continue to do what you do. Thank you all for having me here. Recovery is a product and it's a process. I'm what recovery looks like. I'm that product of what recovery looks like. Every day, I'm in recovery every day. There's no finish line. There's no finish line. It's a process. It's ongoing. Sometimes they say, well, I'm taking 24 hours. I'm going to take it one day at a time. Sometimes all I can take it is 1 hour at a time, one commercial at a time. Sometimes I see those Bud commercials or Bud Light commercials and I almost lose my mind. It gets that difficult sometimes, but I just have to tell myself this too shall pass. If you know somebody who needs our help, get in contact with us. Recovery is a product as well as a process. There's never a completion to it. You never recovered. You're always in recovery. These are two things I know about recovery. I'll bet the farm on these two things about recovery. Recovery will not open up the gates of heaven and let you in. That's number one. Number two, I know this for a fact, and I close with this. Recovery will open up the gates of hell and let you out. you.